Okay, Lupat 28 and Build 48. Lupat. Umika's dad comes for a visit at the bistro and mistakes, Kairi as the womanizer his daughter is dating, and suffice to say, he does not react kindly to the guy. This is actually more on his part, how should I phrase this? Projecting, like giving a reason to be mad about his daughter's circumstances, even though his daughter is basically thrown him out of his life, thrown him out of her life, excuse me, because when she went to work for the bistro, he was flat out against it because it caused her to drop out of school, even though Umika had to do this in hopes that she could revive her friend from death. So basically, her father was disappointed in her for throwing her life, what he felt was throwing her life away, even though she felt like she needed to do everything she could to save her friend. There's a pretty balanced way of going about this, and it's revealed over the episode that the guy honestly regrets his actions with regards to how he felt towards Umika's, well, decision to leave, and the two have not been speaking in the entire year and a half that she's been gone. So it's in his efforts to reconcile and watch over his daughter, even though she's now 19. As I've mentioned before in other stuff relating to the series, usually adolescence for Japan ends at age 20. So things aimed at adolescence tend to air into the teen years and intended maturity and all that jazz. Here it's kind of you should start to be on your own at 18 and you're fully an adult at 21, so there is kind of some comparability to that. And from the tone of the episode, it's not like Umika wants to completely throw her dad out of her life either, but it's just her need to do this just supersedes what he wants for her, and she knows that he's not trying to be awful towards her, and he is looking out for her, but he just doesn't understand because she can't tell him. This kind of plays into the main plot with the monster who has the ability to age people, because him chasing Kairi out of the restaurant leads to them both being witnesses to its attacks, which allows Kairi to inform Tuma and Umika when they are ordered to go raid the guy's hideout of what his power is, and also that his Lupin collection piece, which is based on the shark daggers the Blue Ranger from Gal Ranger and by proxy Wild Force used, which allows him to dive through solid matter as if it were water. This is an effect we've seen used before, most pertinently in Zyuohger, so I would have honestly figured that a Zyuohger artifact would have been the more likely one to allow a monster this power. Though admittedly, I don't remember much of what I saw of Gal Ranger, so maybe they started doing this kind of thing with their Shark Ranger. It's just like, when I don't review something, the odds are of me remembering something about it long term, like, lower themselves, because when I'm reviewing something, I'm actively, thinking about it, whereas when I'm just casually watching something, I'm less likely to remember all the details. So, and because the effects for series were less advanced back then, I don't think they actually did the diving through solid matter thing with the Blue Ranger in that series. And if they did, I feel like it would have been something that would have made its way into, like, Wild Force's adaptation, and I don't remember Max in Wild Force using that ability at all. So it feels off, but it fits how Toei series have used shark-themed characters in the last 10-15 years. So I'm going to give them the buy on it, but it still feels strange to me that that's the ability. Regardless, the monster also uses this ability very intelligently. When Tuma and Umika throw playing cards on the ground so it doesn't have a clean break to fall into the solid surface, it backs away from them, so it's up against a wall, and then when they try to attack it, it just dives straight into the wall. That is very intelligent for its use of that ability, and shows that the, okay, there was no interim scheme for the monster, so that's the bad part, but it's showing that it was still intelligent with its escape plans nonetheless. As its ability to age things, like, what's the point of that beyond torturing someone, honestly? So, and even Gauche seems, you know, the monster grower of the series, seems to find that a bit too wicked even for her taste, because, you know, she's considered the beautiful one of the main trilogy. Trio. Why did I say trilogy? But the Big Don was amused by it simply because it shortens... Humans' lives are already so short in comparison to theirs, like, why not make them face their immortality? The problem with that, of course, is, like, there's no criminal scheme there that should allow him his succession. As remember, the premise of the series is that all of the Gangler are supposed to be committing plotted out crimes with which to rule some aspect of the world, so they can, prove themselves worthy of succession by the big boss so he can retire. And as time has moved on, we have seen that less and less of the minions. So, what are they even doing at this point? Have they entirely lost the original plotting of the series with this? Because this seems like a monster that is, again, it's smart, but it's using its plan in a way that will not... Rephrase. It's not using its abilities in a way that will get it to this goal of obtaining succession in the ranks. So, what's the point? Regardless, this leads them to getting Noel to give them up the next of the armament upgrades for the series, the Magic Dial Fighter, which is a Zeppelin that, when used as a boost in the guns, turns it into a crossbow whose magic arrows can pierce through walls and home in on the target. So that's basically how they deal with its slipping through the walls and whatnot. Magic's ability makes it so that this is the second armament weapon formed out of their gear, with Kairi passing Umika the Scissors Dial Fighter, because she's previously shown herself as adept with wielding... My camera rejected my memory card, even though it was writing to the goddamn memory card. At this point, I think I kind of need to replace it. Okay, back to where I was. The team using the various Kaito boosts ended, and them combining their attacks into a giant, like, magic thief arrow for that was pretty cool. Less so the Megazord combination for this one. The Magic Dial Fighter turns into a giant left hand with a wrecking ball at the end, that in turn opens up to reveal a magic hand. Okay. And the rear section of it turns into the new helm for the Megazord. But it's like, this seems to be the silliest bit, as it then magics up something to basically pull hat tricks on the monster, and I don't feel that really works. In fact, it's calling back to what I felt was one of the worst aspects of the Tokuger, where they pulled something imaginary out of their hat to be the basis for the finishing attacks, and they never worked once, and this feels like it was in that same vein. However, for Noel, the Patranger noticed that this was another modified VS vehicle that he gave over to the Lupin Ranger. So from their perspective, he is now aiding and abetting in their activities, with Noel's defense being that the Patranger were ill-equipped to deal with such a monster because they don't have the versatility the others do. And fair enough, that is certainly a good assessment of their abilities. But it's still another dig at the Patranger and how the show doesn't really make them balanced at all. So, end of the episode, of course, leads into Umika's proper reconciliation with her father, and her teammates pretty much encouraging her to get that back simply because, well, they've lost that connection themselves in its entirety, and Umika doesn't have to be like them for that. So yeah, pretty good episode, pretty decently character-focused, despite, you know, in the recap it not seeming as much. And another sign that the show is improving, because it's fixing the problems with the characters that they showed up with at first. Build, though, this week we have the last stand of Gentoku, as basically the countdown timer is up on Evolt blowing up the world, finally getting back all of the black lost bottles and fusing them with him to begin his full evolution. The others are knocked back and paralyzed, even though Ryuga decided to make use of the hazard trigger for his own short-term power-up, and it basically didn't work, leaving, again, Gentoku for the final stand, where he just does what a lot of them should have done, and kept targeting the evolt trigger. He dies, basically, in this long scene of him constantly being beaten up by evolt, and, well, here's the thing. Gentoku's character has been stagnant since around episode 36. The last quarter of the show, he's done nothing but be in the background, be subservient to other characters, and done these stupid things with his shirts. So, like, when was the last time he had actual pathos in the show? Would have been when his father died, and that was around episode 34, I want to say? Might have been 36, actually. But there's been little shift with him and little dimension to him in him learning about the whole love and peace concept and how Kazumi wants him to go back into politics with what he's now learned to try and actually serve the people this time as he should have originally. And it's like, it's the same problem we had with Graphite last season with Exade. This character seems so interesting, and yet you've neglected to show interesting things about them for the longest time in his involvement with the series. I mean, as I keep saying, the war arc is where the show stagnated because it became more focused on fighting than character, and that followed into the resultant Evolt arc, where everything just kept, like, feeling like it was spinning its wheels in regards to character outside of these smaller moments that don't really reflect a character's advancement because it feels like there are pieces missing out of it. Now, I'm betting that some of this is going to end up being shown in the other parts of the Rogue miniseries that get infrequently released as part of the Blu-rays for the Build series, but it's again a problem because you had 3 more episodes in this series than the last show, and yet you are balancing fewer characters worse than the last series. And I really don't feel they earned the character arc complete flag for Gentoku as a result. He definitely goes down like a boss and succeeding in damaging the Volt Trigger enough so Build can rider kick the Black Pandora panel out of him, but it's like, it feels that there should have been so much better, it feels like there should have been so much more done with the interim episodes they had with him being a good guy that they just didn't. They mainly just used him as a comic relief sight gag with the kanji on his shirt reading as some response, and feels like a waste. Feels this kind of, it's not as infuriating as Katsumi, where his entire death was unnecessary, but it's still, hate to say it, but he actually, Gentoku, despite having less character, actually did more for the final defeat of the villain. Anyways, they get the Black Pandora panel out of Evolt, and then attach the White Pandora panel to it, which destroys the Black Pandora panel, I think. It pretty much vanishes on contact, and all the lost bottles are transferred to the White Pandora panel, which they connect to the remains of the Pandora's box, and it drains Genius Bottle to to convert the black hole that would have devoured Earth, which it's not actually a black hole, it's a wormhole that converts all matter into energy and sends that energy into Evolt himself. black holes and wormholes, like I had to explain for the stupid Super Ninja Steel reveal of Sledge and his crew being alive. Black holes and wormholes are not the same thing. Wormholes send matter and energy somewhere else. Black holes, oh yeah, all the matter and energy they absorb, it's still there, just hyper-condensed into a singularity that nothing can escape from. So it's definitely a severe misnomer about that. But regardless, when the Pandora panel connects, the giant wormhole that Evolt has created to devour Earth and send it to him redirects that connection and connects it to another Earth. Now, as we've been getting teased thanks to the Zio trailer information, Build is going to have its timeline fused back into the main Kamen Rider continuity. At least from everything we've seen, that's what's going to end up happening, and this is basically the way they're going to go about doing it. Connect the white Pandora panel, use the power of the Pandora's box to fuse the Earths, and then, as is revealed in this episode, they're going to get rid of Evolt by basically sending him into the connection line to power the fusion, since he is fused with almost all of the powers of the Pandora's box. You basically need twice the power of the Pandora's box could generate, thanks to Genius also having a complete collection copy of the full bottles that were the Pandora box's power, and then half of it creates the connection, the other half creates the world fusion. I like this. I find this a good way to finally deal with this enemy, except in the final episode of the show, we already know that Evolt somehow survives this, and he and Sento get into one final brawl for it all. So it's like, everybody's been sacrificed, everybody is dead, and you created this whole new world so people could survive it, could survive and live and thrive in, and you still didn't manage to beat the bad guy. I feel like that's an odd way of dealing with this. Unless they're going to go the route of Evolt has been so depowered thanks to his own, thanks to all of this has happened, that he's actually no longer a broken antagonist, which, okay, if they go that route and Build manages to beat him down with Rabbit Rabbit Tank Tank, I don't feel that would be a bad way to end this, as then it would have conclusion and closure for everybody else at that point. But I feel what they should have done is not had to drag him into that warp, but the Pandora box itself drained him dry and then left him at not their mercy, but so the others could actually take him down evenly instead of, you know, having this fake out, goodbye, Evolt, for good this time, and then not having it be for good, because we've had that fake out a couple times already, so it feels less impactful. So yeah, this is better than last time, but there's still something missing that makes it satisfying. I really do, again, I hate to keep beating on the same point, but I really do feel it's because after the war arc started, it subverted so much time that would have been dedicated in other series to developmental actions. They've instead more focused on fight scene than on character in all of this, and it feels less impactful as a result, as if they wasted their time. Admittedly, it wouldn't be the first time a Toei series has ended up doing this, and it has been becoming a more frequent problem as of late, but it's like, I really feel they should know better than to do this, but they didn't, so let's see if the last episode of the series can turn that around, or give a better feeling at the end of conclusion and closure. I doubt it's going to happen, but what do we know? Somebody knows. The episode is premiering on Saturday. There's a companion video out this week of the state of the show. You guys should probably see. I will be releasing that around the same time as this video, so watch one, watch the other, if you want to know what is going on right now. I think that's all I have for this week. I will see you all later.